Congress.
Thanks. We've talked a little bit about the Constitution and how this president has sort of overrun the Constitution, shall we say. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. The president has stated that he will bypass Congress whenever he needs to do so to get things done. And he has done that. He has bypassed Congress in several cases having to do with the environment, with education, with drug shortages, just to give you a couple of examples. He's been using his executive powers to get around the Republicans when they get in his way. What can Congress do to restore the balance of power as laid out by the Constitution? And Mr. Rousel, we're going to take you first on this, then Mr. Craig, then Mr. Pantano, and then back to Mr. Rousel.
You know, that's a very, very important question. You know, the fundamental problem is this president, he doesn't understand it's a three-party government. He thinks he's a dictator. That's the fundamental problem. You know, when he took the oath of office, he didn't take the same oath of office in his mind that everybody else that has served in this office has. That's the fundamental problem right there. What can Congress do? You know, there's an old saying that personnel is policy. You can write all the laws, you can have it perfect, but the way it's implemented, the people who are there executing those laws, if they violate that oath, it all crumbles. And that's basically where we are. I suppose there are some things perhaps that Congress could do. We could have a little more check and balance in some ways and you know, get the president to adhere to that through various enforcement mechanisms. But if you have somebody who's intent on circumventing the Constitution, on circumventing the laws, on circumventing Congress, quite honestly, the only thing that's going to resolve it is to get rid of it. That's what we've got to do with November. If we don't do that in November, the country that you and I have known is not going to be the same for our children and our grandchildren. It's not even going to be the same for us.
Well, that's easy said, but the problem is, why hasn't he been impeached? We attacked Libya. There was no declaration of war. They talk about beat the drums on Iran and Syria. No, Congress is not doing their job. And the question is, why aren't they doing their job? Because the same people that put Obama in office and paid him there own Congress. And until you get the money out, we're going to have to work on a different program because the money owns the congressman, and they tell them, look, you know, we don't want you to, you know, rock any boats. We kind of like this dictatorship that we're going there because we're getting our free ride in the wagon. It's not working because Congress is not doing their job. They should have impeached him long ago. I think the states are going to have to start doing what Congress is not doing, and they're going to have, I don't know, I'm going to start thinking about this, but the states are going to have to start standing up to the federal government and stepping in because our congressmen are home and they're not doing it.
Thank you. Mr. Pantano.
You know, I'm not satisfied with answers like we can, won't, don't, shouldn't. In fact, the reason I think that I'm here, and more importantly, the reason that I think that all of you are here tonight is because you actually believe that one person can make a difference. You actually believe that somebody from this room that you picked tonight is going to go to Washington and is going to fight for your children and your grandchildren and will do it with everything that they have. And the reason you believe that is because they better. They better. The stakes are that high. It's that real. It's that urgent. We're on that much of a brink, on that much of a precipice. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 gives the Congress the ability to declare war, not the President. I've already put out a statement on this. You can go to my website, pantanoforcongress.com. The President seeks unilateral action against Syria or Iran without consulting the Congress. That's cause for impeachment. I will initiate the proceeding. I won't wait. Don't need to be told, don't need to be led. Friends, I've trained with the Israelis. I believe that we have to protect and defend Israel. But I will not allow this president president to drag us into a war by himself to get reelected. I won't let him do that. You better work with the Congress or he's going to jail.
Thank you. Mr. Rouse. Let me review the rules. Don't pause until the end if you would please. We've still got, we're running out of time. We've got some additional questions that I know you all want to hear about. But thank you. Mr. Rouse.
There's one thing you have to think about. You know, when President Bush was in office, the Democrats were hollering for impeachment, 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 and there was no grounds for impeachment. You know, we have to take a measured approach here. Once you go down that path, every president that follows, just think about this. The other side is going to be pursuing impeachment. We need a government that works for us, not against us. We need the Congress and the President to collaborate. And yes, there have been times, I think, when the President has overstepped his bounds. One of the ways you address that is addressing the War Powers Act that was written in '74. Modify that. Get rid of all this legal wrangling. You can have great minds, and the great minds disagree on the constitutionality of things. So, it's not quite as easy as, yeah, we're going to go impeach him. You always have to consider the collateral damage. What's that going to lead to for the future? And is that going to advance the country, or is it not?
One issue that I really want to get to tonight, particularly with the young people in the audience, is education. Education is of particular interest here in North Carolina, and not only interest but concern, with 20% of our high schoolers failing to graduate on time. Many of us are searching for a better way. Globally, the United States is behind many of our international competitors. So what involvement, if any, do you think that the federal government should have in our education system? And what suggestions would you have so that we can ensure that these young people who are with us tonight are going to get a good education? Mr. Crowe, if you would take this question first, and then Mr. Pantano, and Mr. Rouser, and then back to Mr.
Well, I think the more that we see what the federal government is doing, I think that we're going to have to give up the ship with them. They are not doing what they're supposed to do. People have talked about this education thing for a long time, and the federal government is not helping it, and I think it's taking it steps backwards. We need to get our education system locally. We've got the money in it, and but frankly, there is not an interest in educating people, in my opinion. They're going through all of these things to kind of indoctrinate young people, it seems to me, in some sort of collectivism. You're not an individual. You got to work for the group. And when you get older, if we want you to give us your money, we'll do that. It's a majority rules and all this. But we're off into a deep end, and this education, the state has got to start taking the steps, and the counties and the local, and do what they can do, because I think we can do a lot more with the money that's being spent than what we're getting. But the federal government has got to get out of it, because all they're doing, in my opinion, is I probably shouldn't use this word with too many young people, so I won't. But anyway, they're not educating, they're training to be Ottomans, in my opinion, for their agenda, to get them to say, yes, sir, I'm going to do what you do. They're getting rid of the individual. They're getting collectivism, where, the greater good, which who makes the greater good? It's what, Wall Street says is the greater good. And we want you to be this. So I think the education has got to be done locally.